All right, guys, tonight we're going to make a quick video on what makes the Bears need for a receiver, and that's a true X receiver. And I don't want to go too far into the basics, but if anybody doesn't know what an X receiver is, they need to be your top receiver. They need to be your main guy who has size and strength. They're the one on the line of scrimmage that takes the jam coverage. So they've got to be able to fight through that. They've also got to be able to fight through coverage on slants. They've got to be your big, tough receiver that can get open as well. So the Bears really haven't had one. DJ Moore fits that mold because of how tough he is. If you listen to the Equanimous St. Brown show with his brother, the St. Brown brothers, Amon-Ra kept talking about DJ like he was a running back because he's so tough. He's so strong. And DJ breaks away and can muscle through anybody. And that's what makes him so great. But he is shorter. So what the Bears really need is a tall X receiver on the outside. Not going to go too deep into what that is. We can do another video on that later. But I do want to show the options at the top of the draft here and which guy really fits the Bears' needs moving forward into this draft. And if you listen to DJ's press conference, well, it was really his locker room discussion when they were doing exit interviews and cleaning out lockers. He talked about Marvin Harrison Jr. and how they have a relationship, how they did track together in Philadelphia. So real quick, I want to show what the issue is with the Bears right now. A lot of people don't realize we don't have more than a couple options right now for the Bears. We have a huge issue with receivers running routes and getting open and dropping the ball. So look at this year alone. DJ Moore at 4.2% drop rate. This is their drop percentage. What you want and need out of your top guys is 5% or less. The league average is 6.7%. Above the league average, and you really got to figure out what's going on with those guys. Darnell Mooney has had issues for a while. It's not just this year, but he's struggling this year with his route running and getting open. I don't understand what's going on with him. Even when you listen to DJ Moore on the St. Brown Brothers show, he couldn't really answer that. And, he doesn't want to throw Darnell under the bus, but he said, I'm the wrong guy to ask that. Tyler Scott, you can give some forgiveness to because he's a rookie. There's a little leeway there, but he did drop more than you want to see there. Tyler Scott has some amazing speed, but he's got to hang on to the ball. Cole Kmet, look at his progression every year. As a rookie, 8.3%. Last year, 3.8%. This year, 1.4%. He only had one dropped ball all year. Cole Kmet is becoming that elite tight end. So I don't want to hear anybody talking about Cole Kmet like he's not a top 5 receiver. Cole Kmet is the elite of the elite. So let's knock that nonsense out. DJ Moore and Cole Kmet are a building block. They're a cornerstone. But our primary need, as we've gone over in other videos, needs to be a top-tier wide receiver. And DJ Moore said it in his locker room interview. He said, imagine if we have another 1,000-yard receiver on the other side of me. Me as a 1,000-yard guy, and Cole Kmet with 800 yards. What kind of team this team could be? That's a scary team. So that just gives a kind of a breakdown of where we are. Other receivers I didn't put into this because they didn't have enough qualifying catches. They really didn't have more than 15 catches on the year. And that's not enough to even consider them part of the conversation here. So we didn't put them on here. But that's where our needs lie. So I'm going to go and show a true X receiver needs to have strength, size, quickness, route running, and hands. Now you're asking for the total package. When you get something like that, you've got Calvin Johnson, who is, I think, 6'5". Don't fact check me on that one. But he could move with such grace, and he got the corner on anybody. If he got the edge, the ball was his, and he was gone. He was size, strength, quickness, route running. He had everything. And that's what Marvin Harrison Jr. is being compared to. And that's why it's so tempting to just take him at number 1 overall. But I can see the appeal of dropping back a couple, maybe 2 or 3 at the most, and snagging him at number 2 or 3 and going forward. But Rome Odunze is being compared to Devontae Adams. I mean, some of these guys are top tier. So here's our starting list of guys that are considered in the first round or at least the top of the second round. So these are X receivers, guys that are considered at the top of the draft. So we're going to go through and look at some of their traits. First off, we're going to do hands. They've got to have at least a plus 75 grade, which is above average in the NFL, and 750 yards in college. For a 12-game college, that averaged out to a 1,000-yard receiving season. That's a baseline. So I'm not saying we want to see the 1,000-yard receivers really, but this is a baseline of who we're going to consider of those 12. So of those guys, we've got the top tier hands guys. These would be top tier in the NFL. Adonai Mitchell, 88-95 in their hands. Malik Neighbors and Xavier Leggett. 82-87, Romo Dunze, Keon Coleman, Marvin Harrison Jr., and 75-82, Xavier Worthy, Mika Ibuka, and Brian Thomas Jr. Okay? I'm going to go through this kind of quick, but this is kind of some of the nerdy analytical stuff that I do to determine who I like as my receivers going into the draft. And there's different guys I like at different times for different reasons. One person was asking me, why don't you like Johnny Wilson when everybody's been so high on him? He's 6'7". Well, his drop rate, his hand grade is like a 50-something. So he's dropping a lot of balls. He's way below average. So no, I don't like Johnny Wilson. I'm sure he'll be fine. But we're going to move on to so the guys that are out after that round of looking at that, Troy Franklin, Ladd McConkey, Devontae Walker, and Johnny Wilson. And I like Devontae Walker for a lot of other reasons. But I want somebody who's not going to be dropping the ball. I want our X receiver to be reliable, have sticky glue for his hands. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next one. That's going to be route running. And I want a plus 90 grade, someone who can get open, someone who can separate, because that's something we're dealing with issues right now with the Bears. A lot of people talk about how Justin Fields can't read the field or he's not willing to throw it. The only person getting open is Cole Kmet and DJ Moore. When the other guys get open, and yes, there's going to be a play or two where he misses one. Every quarterback does, and I'm sick of people pointing that out on one or two plays that Justin Fields has missed. But if guys aren't open, he's doing a lot more discipline at not trying to throw it in there and force something that's going to be an interception this year. He actually is one of the highest rated tight window throwers in the NFL. You look at some of the throws he does pinpoint to the back of the end zone to DJ Moore, and I mean, they make me drop my jaw. So these are the only four left after route running. I want someone who's elite, most elite of the elite. I could have added more in here, but these are the guys with the plus 90 grade in route running. Okay? And that's in order. Malik Neighbors is top, Marvin Harrison Jr., and then in the 90-94 range, Xavier Leggett is first, and then Romo Dunze. So these four guys, that knocks out Brian Thomas Jr., Keon Coleman, Mika Ibuka, Adonai Mitchell, and Xavier Worthy. And a couple of those guys I really like. At different times I've talked about Keon Coleman and Adonai Mitchell, and I like them a lot. Okay, so last thing, we need someone that has the size and the strength. Okay, those guys in the premier, that's your Marvin Harrison Jr., that's your Romo Dunze, that's your Xavier Leggett. Malik Neighbors is still a tough guy. He's only 6 foot. I think we need to go out and get that guy that separates and is elite, the premier. Marvin Harrison Jr., 6'4", 205, runs a 4.39. Romo Dunze, 6'3", 215, runs a 4.37. Xavier Leggett, 6'3", 227, 4.29. And a lot of you might say, well, why is Xavier Leggett? Let's go to the last page here, where they rank. Actually, I'm going to come back to this, but maybe I skipped it. Oh, okay, yeah, right there. Why is Xavier Leggett consensus ranked down in the 40 to 60 range? Why isn't he higher with his route running at 93, his hands at 89, his size? Well, one of his big flaws is he doesn't catch with his hands. So he's got good catch ability. He doesn't drop many, but sometimes he lets it come into his body. So that's a lot of the things they're going to be sorting out in the combine, and he might rise the boards if he does a lot better. But right now he doesn't, and so that's something that worries these scouts. And so that's one of the negative things on his scout report. But you look at this and you see a generational guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., and I've said before that word is thrown around way too much, generational, but Marvin Harrison Jr. really is that guy that doesn't come around very often. And that's why I'm tempted to say, oh, yeah, there's so much draft capital on the board. We can get so much more by trading down and getting Romo Dunze at 7 to 20, but Marvin Harrison Jr. is that guy that never comes along, that guy that when you watch him play, you'll watch his tape in college, it's spectacular. It's like watching a Vegas show. Like watching him, you're like, oh, man. Like, it really is special. But this is a draft loaded. Those top three guys, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Romo Dunze, they really are guys that in any other draft would be the first wide receiver taken off the board and are guys considered at the top of any draft. These are the Calvin Johnsons, the Devontae Adams, the A.J. Browns. These are those types of guys. So I don't think we can go wrong here, but we can go good, better, best. And I mean, it's a hard decision. I'm glad that decision is on polls, but that's kind of the breakdown I get of what I want. If we can get value and Xavier Leggett does not climb the board any higher than that, I see him actually climbing into the first round. This is just consensus. off different places. If you go look at Draft Buzz, they've got him kind of in this range with all theirs as well. I don't agree. I see him climbing into the first round. In fact, one of my mock drafts I did, I had the Colts taking him when I had them projected for the playoffs, I think 19th or 20th overall. I think he's going to climb right into the first round conversation. So this might be outdated. I don't think we can get him later. But if we could snag Marvin Harrison Jr. and Xavier Legette, or Malik Neighbors and Xavier Legette, I mean, that's just home run out of the park for the Bears. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think. If you think we should absolutely do everything it takes to go get Marvin Harrison Jr., or if we should settle for Rome Odunze, or if we should, which guy is on your board and what logic and reasoning you use for it. This is just some of the stuff that I go through when I'm tracking them, when I'm doing my little analytical stuff of what I look for. But we are definitely in for a top-tier wide receiver to put across from DJ Moore. I think that direction is very clear with the Bears right now of where they're going with this. One of our first two picks is definitely going to be a wide receiver. Let me know what you think. Till next time, bear down.